Hi, all, welcome back. Let's see the new topic separation of substances. In our daily life, there are many instances when we notice a substance being separated from a mixture of materials. For example, the tea leaves are separated from the liquid with strainer while preparing the tea, and the grain is separated from stalks while harvesting. Likewise, the milk or curd is churned to separate the butter. And suppose if we are given a basket containing mangoes and apple and asked to separate them, what would we do? We'll pick out one kind and place them in a separate container. It seems easy, but what if the materials we want to separate are much smaller than the mango or apple? So it's impossible even to think of separating the small substances. Yes, before we use a substance, we need to separate the harmful or non useful substance that may be mixed with it. That substance and that particles may be in different size, different texture or material. And now let's see the separation methods. Here are some methods of separation, and now let's see all this in detail. First one, hand picking. It is a very simple method. When we purchase a food grain packet, any kind of food grain, we used to clean it by spreading the grains on a sheet of paper. Do we find only one kind of grain on it? No, there may be few stones or husk or broken particles of other grains. And now we remove all the pieces of stone, husk and other grains with our hands. This method is called hand picking. It can be used for separating the large sized particles. So it's one of the convenient method of separating the substances. Second one, threshing. Threshing, we might had seen the bundles of wheat or paddy stalks lying in fields after harvesting the crop. The stalks are dried in the sun before the grain is separated from them, and each stalk has many grain seeds attached to it. So, plucking huge amount of grains from their stalks would be impossible. Then how does the farmer separate grain seeds from their stalks? By this threshing method. The stalks are beaten to free the grain seeds. Sometimes it is done with the help of bullocks or machines. Third one, winnowing. This method is used to separate heavier and lighter components of a mixture by wind or by blowing air. Normally, this is used to separate husk from grains. When there is a mixture of dry sand with sawdust or powdered dry leaves, it will be definitely difficult to separate the components. Why? Because of its particle size. So the farmer hold the plate or sheet containing the mixture at the shoulder height and tilt it slightly so that the mixture slides out slowly and gets separated. Next method is sieving. Sometimes we may wish to prepare a dish with the flour. We need to remove the impurities and bran that may be present in it, so we use a sieve and pour the flour in it. The fine flour particles pass through the holes of the sieve while the bigger one remain on the sieve. So in a flour mill, the husk and stones are removed from wheat before grinding it. Sedimentation, decantation and filtration. Sometimes it may not be possible to separate components of a mixture by winnowing and hand picking. For example, the rice or pulses may contain dust or soil particles in it, and they are usually washed before cooking. When we add water to this, the impurities like dust particles get separated and the impurities go into the water. Now, what will sink to the bottom? The rice or the dust? The rice sink to the bottom and the vessel is tilted to pour out the dirty water. When the heavier component in a mixture settles after water is added to it, the process is called sedimentation. And when the water along with the dust is removed, that is called decantation process. Next, filtration. It is the process of passing the mixture through a filter to remove the mixture and the solid particles from the fluid components of the mixture. For example, if we pass muddy water through a fine filter, we can notice that the mud gets filtered and the water passes through it. And another example which I said before is the tea. When we filter the tea in the strainer, the tea gets filtered and the tea leaves get stuck in the strainer. So this process is called filtration. And next, evaporation. The process of conversion of water into its vapor is called evaporation. Where do you think salt comes from? The seawater contains many salts mixed in it, and one of these is common salt. When seawater is allowed to stand in shallow pits, water gets heated by sunlight and slowly turns into water vapor through evaporation. In a few days, the water evaporates completely, leaving behind the solid salts. And this is how we get all the salts. And when the steam comes in contact with the metal plate cooled with ice, it condenses and forms a liquid water. The water drops that you observe falling from the plate were due to condensation of steam. So the process of conversion of water vapor into its liquid form is called condensation. Can water dissolve any amount of a substance? Many substances dissolve in water and form a solution. Then what will happen if we go on adding more and more of the substance to a fixed quantity of water that remains undissolved and settles at the bottom? So that solution is said to be a saturated solution. It is a chemical solution containing the maximum concentration of a solute dissolved in the solvent. For example, a saturated solution of salt in water is one in which no more salt can be dissolved. This added salt will just sediment down to the bottom at the vessel. So it is called a saturated solution. And in the next video, we'll continue with the book back exercise. Thanks for watching and please don't forget to subscribe the channel.